And hello everyone, this is Hedgie. I'm streaming at a rather strange time tonight. It's about 7:20 on a Tuesday evening, and the reason why is that we ran into some problems with Stream Elements and some of their authentication issues with Twitch, apparently. Yeah, Stream Elements being weird, there was a whole thing. Not everybody was affected by it, but some people were, and hey, look at that, I got to be one of the lucky ones. So, anyway, welcome into my stream. This is Hedgepig, and tonight we are going to be making chicken noodle soup. Now, I'm not sure what it is that makes chicken noodle soup and soups in general so comforting. Perhaps it's that they're warm and easy for sore throats to eat, and the penetrating warmth of the soup helps loosen up tightness in your chest. And hey, Glittered Kitten, welcome in, welcome in. How are you doing tonight? Glittered Kitten and I were talking a little bit earlier about the fact that I was craving chicken noodle soup and that she had been craving chicken noodle soup too. So what the coincidence, eh? I actually had started wanting this. I'm right there with you, Kitten. Glittered Kitten, in case you didn't know, is the wonderfully talented, amazing person who did all of my emotes and is doing the art for my merchandise that we're trying to hook up. Had some problems with authentication with Twitch, so maybe that's fixed too now. But very soon I will be having a merchandise store open where you can buy mugs and glasses and sweatshirts and hoodies and t-shirts and even a throw blanket. So if you want to snuggle up with the Hedgepig while you're watching me stream, you can do that. She has done the art for that, and she is just the most wonderful person to work with. She's very talented. She has wonderful prices for what she charges, and you know, the work that she does is just amazing. It's seamless. It's perfect. So thank you very much, Kitten, once again for all the things that you've done for my stream and for me personally and for your support. Okay, so chicken noodle soup. Chicken noodle soup has to be the one that everyone has always said. There's a reason why there's a line of books called Chicken Noodle Soup for the whatever, for your soul, for whatever. And it's always been thought of as something that when somebody's sick or feeling down, what do you give them? Chicken noodle soup. And I'm not talking about the stuff in the can that has those skinny, mushy, greasy little noodles and the thin and rather flavorless broth. I'm talking about actual chicken noodle soup. Chicken noodle soup started from homemade broth, or even, you know, canned broth or bone broth stock that they have in the stores now, with chicken that you've got here along with fresh vegetables and herbs and spices. Now that's chicken noodle soup. So we are going to start on that by starting with chicken. Actually, we're going to start by plugging in my hot plate, which I didn't do. So that was a silly Hedgepig move there. Oh, of course it is. Let's see if I can do this without... There, I did. Yay! Hedgepig managed not to throw stuff all over the floor. Yay! Sometimes our victories are a pretty low-hanging fruit. What can I say? All right, so my hot plate is now plugged in, and that is my beloved Farberware hot plate that has two cast iron plates for their heat, because that's really the best way to do it. You've got an even heat then. With the coils, you have hot and cold areas. When it heats up a whole plate, the whole plate is hot evenly. And so that makes it so that it heats underneath what you're cooking evenly, and you don't have those same little hot and cold spots. So I have got my 5-quart Dutch oven here from, it needs to have some extra stuff taken out of this here. It's got some, I know there's nothing wrong with anything that's in here, but it bugs me that it has water in it when I'm going to be making soup. What can I say? It's a weirdness for me. So I will take and dry that out. Give me a second here to do that. This is a hard anodized 5-quart Dutch oven, and it is from Cuisinart. It is a wonderful, wonderful cooking implement. It is very non-stick because of the hard anodized. And because it is a Dutch oven, what it is meant to do is to cook on the stove top, and it is also meant to go directly to, you can cook in the oven because it has the metal handles here, and even the lid is fireproof basically to 500 degrees. So you can take and you can sear a pot roast on your stove top and then throw in your potatoes and onions and carrots and all and your broth, and then take and put it right in the oven and bake it for a few hours and come out with wonderful one-pot dinner. That is the joy of an actual Dutch oven and not just a short stock pot. I am going to start with this, and as always with the chicken, I am using chicken thighs, and I am using boneless chicken thighs. And so the first thing you want to do is make sure that you have any area you don't want to eat cut out. And in this case, that means little bits of tendon and a little extra fat, and anytime where they're doing deboning, you can end up with little bits of cartilage, and I want to make sure that nobody bites into a chunk of cartilage, because it's kind of like finding a hair in your food. You really don't want it after that. So I just turn this little baby around, make sure that once again nothing that I'm putting in my food is something I don't want there. Doing the visual inspection to make sure that there's no bones, that there's no sinew, that there's not a lot of fat on it, and I am going to use some oil this time in the pan, and I am going to put about 2 tablespoons. There we go. This is canola oil. You could use corn oil or olive oil. It's really up to you. I find that the canola oil has the least flavor that it adds, and that's kind of what I'm after. I want my foods not to taste like something else. So nothing wrong with using olive oil. If you like olive oil, I just really prefer it this way. So I am going to cut the chicken into dice. This is going to be a soup, not a stew, so the pieces of chicken are going to be smaller than you've seen in some of the past things that I've cooked. The idea, once again, is to get everything the same size that is being cooked together, so all of the chicken pieces are roughly the same size, and when I get into the vegetables will be the same size as each other, so that the onion is all the same size as the onion, the carrots are the same size as the carrots, and so on. That makes it so that you know that all of your food is cooked the same, so that you don't have some that is more cooked and some that is less cooked. And I am using about 6 chicken thighs here. In order to do this, as you see, I've got some extra fat here I don't want, so I'm going to cut that off. And you can use those little bits, cook them up for your cat or your dog, or I don't know whether or not Kitten's tarantula would eat chicken bits, but you know, if it would, there you go. Another use for it. And again, making sure chicken thighs have a lot of extra bits on them because they have to be peeled away from the bone. So you want to be fairly diligent that you make sure there's no bone or tendon left. And aside from that, you want to make sure that the chicken meat is a healthy color. It doesn't have any strange sheen to it, which meat tends to get, is kind of a oily or greasy sheen when it starts to decay, and that is a very big indication you need to get a different piece of meat. So hopefully what you're using is either fresh frozen or something that has been in your refrigerator for only a day or two after you bought it. That will help keep the freshness there because obviously fresh food is better than old food. So I have this little bit cut up there. And this is a very simple recipe. It is, she'd rather eat a cricket. Well, okay. My hedgehog was kind of like that too. He liked crickets and mealworms in particular. Mealworms were the best. Ooh, baby, did he love mealworms. You haven't lived till you've seen a live mealworm trying to crawl away as fast as it can from a hedgehog and the hedgehog hopping in pursuit. It's really funny. Probably not for the mealworm, but lots of laughs for the owner. So I'm making this about a 3/4 inch dice approximately. And once I have the chicken cut up, I will, or at least most of the chicken cut up, I will start the heating process underneath the pot. As I said, this is it's a simple recipe. It doesn't have a lot of things that it hides behind. It doesn't have fancy fruitiness everywhere. Honey, I don't have the mushrooms out here. This basically has onions and carrots and celery, and I'm adding mushrooms because I like them and I believe they're high in B vitamins. And B vitamins are a wonderful thing to have. And then it has a fairly simple herb profile to go with that. Sweetheart. Sometimes simple tastes the best, especially if you're feeling a little under the weather. The fresh vegetables in this will give it a nice flavor. It will have good nutrition as well. A lot of times people will put garlic in this. I never eat garlic, but that's because I'm allergic. There's a lot of talk about how that became thought of originally as being a healthy thing to eat, the garlic. And it was, you know, one of those things. It's good for the blood, it's good for lots of different things, and you know, people basically said, you know, it'll ward off a vampire, it's got to be good for this too. I don't know if they really said that, but it's funny. And a good garlicky chicken broth is something that a lot of people find very comforting. If you were going to add garlic to this, when you start frying the onions for this, to sweat them down, I would suggest crushing anywhere between 1 to 3 garlic cloves and putting it in, or dicing it up if you have that. You can dice up those garlic cloves and add them in when you do the onion towards the end, because garlic sears and scorches and burns very easily. So that's something you do want to watch for. That's funny. Yeah, well, they are little hunters. They are little predators, these little creatures that we have. So, you know, watching their hunting behaviors can seem awfully cute, but I imagine if you're a mealworm, it's pretty darn terrifying. So, I'm going to just keep going with the chicken. One of these days I'm going to be really, really lazy and break down and get that bag of 48 ounces of cubed chicken breast, so I don't have to cube the chicken. But that day is not here yet, so I'm going with thighs because the thigh meat is close to the bone, which gives it a little extra flavor, and it is higher in fat than the chicken breast. So any of the dark meat of the bird is going to be a little more moist. It's going to have a little bit more flavor, and it is going to be higher in fat, and fat is good. That's part of where the flavor comes from. So, almost done with the chicken legs. I thought I had just one left, but don't have two. So, regardless, I'm going to turn this on so it will be hot by the time I get it started. The important thing to do with your chicken here, whether you've started from scratch to make the chicken broth, which you would start with a chicken carcass, or if you were if you're going to use the chicken carcass and you're going to boil it, and say you use an entire chicken, you throw it in there, it has all the meat, you figure, hey, what the heck, let's put that in there, because we've already got it cooked, it's contributed to flavor, might as well use the meat. Take the meat from that and make chicken salad with it, where you go and you add mayonnaise and mustard to it, because when you boil the meat like that, you boil all of the fat out of it, and what it basically does is make it, even though it's been cooked in liquid, dry. So you don't want to be chomping on your soup and be munching on dry chicken and wondering how the heck you manage that. So the best way to deal with it is to make your soup, you make your broth fresh, use the chicken meat that's on that chicken or turkey or whatever bird you're using for it, and you want to use that for something else and get fresh that you're going to sear, which will seal in the flavor, it will heighten the flavor of what's in there, and it will make it so it doesn't taste like boiled meat. And part of that boiled meatness is it's the dryness of the meat that you're looking at. So, alrighty then. That is almost all of the chicken. Here's my last piece. My dog would love some of these scraps. He's not going to get them because I didn't separate out the chicken bone and chicken cartilage from it, so he's not going to get an opportunity. I don't want him choking on a chicken bone. I've managed to keep him alive through 11 years of his being a dingbat, and he's not smart. He's cute, but he's not smart. He's an Italian Greyhound, and he is kind of the California beach boy of the dog world. He pretty, but he dumb. Don't want to have him choking on a chicken bone and losing him at this point. That would just be tragic. So, I know that some people give their dogs and cats either raw bones, even from a chicken, or from a turkey or anything like that, or they'll give them a well-cooked bone and figure they can just chew it up. I've heard so many things over the years, I just don't do it. I've heard people say it's okay, I've heard people say it's not okay, and I just don't want to take the chance. So my animals get deboned things unless I'm actually getting them a meat bone to eat. In which case I figured the bone was meant to be that, and that's usually like a knuckle bone or something like that from a cow. Kitty, of course, my little Zoe girl, she gets the prime bits of food from our plate and from our sandwiches because she's a little princess, so. I sure hope you do more streams like you did the other day, Kitten, where you actually show yourself doing the artwork for your emotes, because that was entertaining, and it was also it was really neat to see how you got from point A to point B and made these beautiful little emotes that you come up with. Okay, so I have got chicken bits out of the way. I'm going to wash my hands now so that I don't get raw chicken on anything else I'm going to be doing. So, very important to do that, and no longer to use the big cutting board. I'll be using a little cutting board because this has had raw chicken on it. Anytime you have raw meat on your board, you don't want to use it on anything else, especially with chicken, where you can get bad food poisoning from that. Salmonella, and that is a trip to the hospital. So one of the more painful, gross food poisonings. So I am going to take my chicken now, and I'm going to stick it in here where it is joining the heating oil. I've got this on a medium-high heat. I rarely use anything higher than that. I'll go down to a low heat. I'll go to, if I'm keeping something warm or just trying to melt something like butter. And I will cook things that are more delicate on a medium heat, like some seafood. But medium-high is pretty much my wheelhouse there. That is where I do most of my cooking heat. So it's about the equivalent of 350 degrees in the oven. And that is fairly efficient at cooking anything you want to do and getting it to actually brown. So, all right. That's that. And now I'm going to move the big cutting board out of the way. I do not have my recipe for this up yet. I'm updating it to my current taste. I used to make this differently. I got parsley on this. It does get everywhere. Okay, so I do not need the mouse on this, so I'll move that off to the side. And I'm going to pause here and take a little bit of a drink. Okay. So the next things we are going to add to this are some of the seasonings. I'm going to add about a half a teaspoon of sage. Sage is good for what ails you. And I'm going to add probably a quarter teaspoon of rosemary, and I am using a spice grinder. Hopefully, there we go, set it a little bit bigger. And I don't like to have the little sticks of rosemary in my food, so I like to have ground rosemary, and they only sell the stick version. So you can either get a mortar and pestle and grind it the old-fashioned way. You can get like this, which is a salt and pepper grinder, and have that used to grind it. It has a little ceramic blade in it, and it works really well. Or you can get a coffee grinder, like you would grind up your coffee for espresso, and you can use that to. I do not have a spatula out there. Started on parsley. I'm going to add a lot of parsley to things because parsley is very high in iron. Thank you. And I am particularly lacking in iron right now, so a lot of my food is going to look very, very green. Did I say lacking in parsley? I think I did. I meant I was lacking in iron. So I'm going to start this searing around in there. Thank you, baby. So I am going to keep working on browning that. Yeah, spinach is a very good thing. Hey, Badass Mama, I am making chicken noodle soup tonight. I would do that, but while the spinach is very high in iron, it is also very high in vitamin K, which would make my blood clot terribly. And it's one of those things I have to be very careful as someone who takes blood thinner. I have to be very careful on making sure I don't get my blood too thick. So, as usual, I am using sweet onion here, and I cut off the end, which would have the onion shoots coming out of it, the green portion of the onion, and I cut through the root portion, which will hold all of the leaves of the onion together while I cut it. So rather than be chasing little bits of onion all over the board, I do that instead. And I cut them in half like that because it's a lot easier to cut something that's flat than it is to try to cut something that's round. So, do that as well. I'm going to take those little bits and clean them off my board. Because even if you cook the onion skin really, really well, by accident, it still is an onion skin, and you really can't even chew the darn things. They're just papery and nasty no matter what you do. So, just cleaning out some of the membrane between the leaves. Chicken in a soup with spinach goes very nicely together. As a matter of fact, I have a chicken soup with a cheese and spinach tortellini that's really nice. Usually I do it as a cream soup, so it's lovely and milky. Yeah, I wouldn't recommend it either. So what do you think of when you think of, is there a particular kind of food or soup that you crave when you're feeling a little under the weather? Maybe you've got a cold or just a bad sore throat and you want something comforting? Hey, Carrie! Welcome in, Carrie, and thank you for the sub. You are joining me in time to watch me make some chicken noodle soup. And I have got the chicken in my pot here. This is 6 chicken thighs that are searing in here with half a teaspoon of sage, 1/4 teaspoon of rosemary, and 2 tablespoons of parsley. So glad to see you again, Carrie. Are we getting close to the next issue of the blind loper run? Yeah, chicken noodle soup is often what people seem to want. I don't know if it's just a childhood comfort memory or what exactly is going on. I mean, when I was a little girl, Mom used to give us, when I was really little, Campbell's chicken soup, and I liked the fact that it was hot and easy to eat, and that it tended not to make my stomach upset. But I really liked it better when she made us her chicken noodle soup from scratch. But she didn't do that often because Mom worked full time and usually was commuting too. So I have got my new kitchen implement here. I'm still just utterly in love with. It is my board scraper, which lets me take almost an entire board worth of things that I've chopped up and get them all in one scoop without me having to drop little bits everywhere. So that's a fun little thing, and you'll find my regular equipment on the on my Discord under stream equipment. It is a really fun little thing. They are used in baking a lot. As you can see, they actually have a measuring line here by the inches. It's a 6x4 piece of metal. It is actually a blade, so you need to be careful with that. You could actually cut up your vegetables with it, but I prefer to cut it up with a knife, because generally when I'm dicing, I'm splitting things and, more than just cutting it in a single line. So I just use it. You can use it to cut dough. It is really good at cutting dough. So if you're making pizza dough or bread dough or dough for a cinnamon rolls or something like that, it's very good for measuring off exactly where you want to go, and then you can just cut it without having to use a knife, and it works really well. And just as a little demo here, just to show you, it really does actually work as a blade, and it works very well as a blade. So it is capable of doing it. I just choose not to. It's not a blade that I would go around sharpening, and Andrew keeps our actual cutting blades, the chef's blades and such, very nicely sharp for me. So suppose there's no reason it can't be sharpened. It is, after all, a blade, but because of what its purpose is to cut up is dough and bread doughs and all those kind of different things, it doesn't have to be sharp. It just has to be a little pointy. You've been craving Snicker bars, huh? Well, you know what they say. It'll help keep you from being hangry. When my puppy I had at the time first met Andrew in a parking lot, she was in my mother's arms, and she was just a 6-month-old toy puppy. She was a Italian Greyhound that was especially small even for her breed. And she took one look at Andrew and she jumped from my mom's arms to his. It was about a 4-foot gap. And he caught her, and it was just utter love from her side ever since. Pretty much for the rest of her life, he was just her favorite person. And I saw that same love reflected in my husband's eyes when he saw my serrated short sword that I have, and it became his sword at that moment. And he still has possession of it. Whips it out occasionally to, I don't know, just I guess for the fun of whipping it around in the air. So I will start over. The recipe is not up on my stream, on my Discord yet, but it will be. This is just a very simple recipe. This is 6 chicken thighs, seared in 2 tablespoons of canola oil. It is a ½ teaspoon of sage, a 1/4 teaspoon of ground rosemary, 2 tablespoons of parsley. I have put in a diced sweet onion. I'm now putting in 4 stalks of celery that are diced. And I will also be adding in some rainbow carrots to make it pretty and to add extra nutrients. And I will also be adding in some white button mushrooms. A note upon mushrooms, although there's nothing wrong with using a cremini mushroom. I think they have more flavor, so I like to use them a lot. There's nothing wrong with using them with chicken or fish. They do have a more meaty taste to them that can lend a beef-like taste to your dish. If you don't have beef in it, so if you're doing some vegetarian things like a chili that really need to have sort of a beefy flavor to it, cremini mushroom or portobello, these are baby portobellos basically, will add that flavor in for you. So if you're going to be using mushrooms with chicken or fish or anything lighter in flavor, I suggest using either a white button mushroom or a shiitake or even an oyster mushroom, something like that, something that has more of a delicate flavor that won't really be contributing so much to the flavor of the meal. Get my little bits off the table again. And give this all a bit of a stir around. And why am I using rainbow carrots? What a rainbow carrot is basically just a carrot that has different colors. Rainbow carrots are white carrots and kind of a burgundy colored carrot. And then you have your regular orange carrot in with it. There's no difference in taste, but they do add a nice appearance. And that's kind of interesting sometimes. They added a visual interest. I'm not sure if that was why they were developed, but I suspect it might have been. I know that's why people tend to use them. And as I said, here is the burgundy carrot. And it has a sort of a pinkish white center to it. That's their central vein up the middle of it. And then they have the white ones that kind of look like a parsnip, don't taste like it. Thank God I don't like parsnips. And then they will have the regular orange carrot, which is just a standard carrot. And I am going to be putting in about a half a cup of these carrots. And I'm not going to be dicing them. I'm going to leave them in pretty little circles. And they are a very hard little root vegetable, so watch your fingers. I actually get these Badass Mama through Amazon Fresh. They're from a local store, but it tends to be more of a gourmet store. Interestingly, they don't cost any more than regular carrots, so why not? Adds a little bit of extra interest to the food you're cooking, and looks nice in photographs. And in chicken noodle soup or in chowders is about the only way you'll see me eat a cooked carrot. It's one of my, I don't know, when it gets cooked, they get really sweet, and it's not something I like to have in my carrots that are cooked. I prefer to eat them raw, unless it's going into soup. And it's just a weirdness, just like a lot of people don't like the texture of mushrooms. They don't mind the flavor of mushrooms. They don't like the texture of them, particularly if they're raw, where they're kind of spongy and squinchy all at the same time, and it's just, I can see what they don't like about it. I like mushrooms any way they come. I do prefer them cooked, sauteed, roasted. Marinated is awfully lovely. I'm going to cut up my burgundy carrots here, and as you can see, has that lovely white center. And it's just kind of interesting. And I am going to be adding a lot of mushrooms to this, like I said, for the extra nutrients, and because, doggone it, I just find mushrooms comforting and yummy, so I'm going to add them in there. You don't have to add them in if you don't want to. I'm going to be putting in a full pound. Everybody in my family actually really likes mushrooms, including the dog. He's a very strange dog. I've mentioned this before. He's kind of a garbage can on legs. He will eat almost anything. And oddly enough, Italian greyhounds in particular seem to like vegetables. I've had several of them, and we had one, the same one that fell so desperately in love with Andrew at first sight. He had a Big Mac one time, and the lettuce got all over his chest, and she was in his lap because we were driving, and he had saved a couple bits of meat for her and for her sister, Meg, who was a corgi. And Meg wanted nothing to do with the lettuce, quite sensibly, and she wanted the meat, and Mako wanted nothing to do with the meat. She wanted the lettuce. And she ate the lettuce first and thoroughly enjoyed it. We always said she was watching her figure. She was a very sleek and delicate lady, and it certainly made sense. So I've got a pound of these white button mushrooms. So they're a milder mushroom. They're what you tend to see if you get canned mushrooms. You're looking at button mushrooms. And I am going to add a whole ton to this, and they will cook down. I haven't just completely filled up my pan with mushrooms and they're going to stay that way with no room for adding in the noodles. But these mushrooms will reduce by half, so we will just keep them cooking until they do. Interesting. On the back of the mushroom label, it has a recipe for a mushroom sauté, 4 tablespoons of butter, 2 garlic cloves crushed, 16-ounce package of sliced mushrooms, 4 tablespoons chopped onion, 2 teaspoons fresh thyme chopped, and then you sauté over medium heat. And let's see. Oh, cool. It says you cook it for about 10 minutes, which is about how long it takes a mushroom to give up its juice, the liquid that's in it, the water, and it will give it time to cook a little bit of that out. I am going to keep this going and just talk to y'all. Now, I apologize for my rather spotty attendance, but when I got sick in December, well, actually late November, and I was having such a hard time, I got into a garlic allergy issue that made my stomach so sensitive it really couldn't handle eating anything. And I took utter and complete leave of my senses, and so I didn't eat for a couple months. And that has made me really, really iron deficient and anemic and sick, and it was an incredibly dumb thing to have done. Like I said, I took complete leave of my senses and didn't do anything about it. So, not great. I'm starting to feel a little bit better, but it's been an iffy thing. I actually was in the hospital a couple days ago. It didn't admit me, but I did get to admire their emergency room for a good 6 hours. So that's always fun. I am hoping to continue my streaming, but if I apologize, it makes me very unreliable in my regular streaming schedule, but I've kind of got to listen to my body, and if it's not feeling up to it, I need to not do it. So I will still come on and see you all and hang out in your streams and talk about food. So, and you all know how much I like to do that. I love going into streams and making people hungry, talking about the food that I've cooked or the food that I want to cook and what I'm thinking of doing for upcoming streams, and basically making people go, oh my God, you're making me hungry. What can I say? That just makes me happy. So, we are starting to see this cooking down, and I will just keep going. So, chicken noodle soup. It is considered the go-to I'm sick soup. And I'm sure there's some people that, you know, their favorite go-to soup isn't chicken noodle. Maybe it's a spicy soup. I had a friend who, anytime he was sick, he immediately tromped down to the local Thai restaurant and got some of their Tom Yum. I think it's Tom Yum Ga. It is the coconut milk spicy chicken soup with bird's eye chilies and lemongrass, and it's got fish sauce in it and lime juice, and he always got it extra hot so that it would clear out. He would clear out his head and his chest and usually raise a sweat, because he was one of those people that really was only happy at 4 to 5 stars. So he always got it really hot. He said that made him taste feel better. And I have heard lots of people that say, yes, they like pho when they are feeling down, feeling under the weather, you know, just feeling kind of sad. They find it comforting. Anthony Bourdain, actually, very interestingly, I think, had remarked on many of his shows, anytime he was anywhere near pho, he would have it. It didn't matter if it was pork, if it was beef, if it was chicken, if it was a mix of he didn't know what. A bowl of pho always made him incredibly happy. He said if he was going to have a last meal, his choice would be pho. I have a recipe for a Thai chicken noodle soup that uses rice noodles, and it uses a tamarind broth to it, so it has that sweetened and sour tamarind flavor to it. It's got some coconut milk, it's got some lemongrass in it, but it's also got chicken and vegetables. The Thai food is always so up there with fresh ingredients. Actually, most of the Asian cooking is the Vietnamese, the Thai, Japanese in particular, Chinese. They do a little bit more frying than the rest of them do and breading, but oh yeah. Yeah, Seattle has a huge Asian community, huge Chinatown, lots and lots and lots and lots of every kind of Asian restaurant you can think of we have, including some that are a mix, so that they will have, they will serve Chinese and Japanese and Thai all at the same restaurant, which is absolutely fabulous if they have chefs that are good enough to do that. There's lots of Asian foods, Badass Mama, that are not hot and spicy. I like Asian food. I used to eat kung pao chicken and things like that, and I would go up to a 4-star on kung pao, but I had to have a glass of wine with it to cut the heat, and I always drank red wine with it because I just thought it tasted best with it. I can't do that anymore. I was young then. And I didn't know any better what it was going to do to my stomach long term, and the fact that once you get older, you kind of lose your ability, at least most people do, to eat spicy foods. Okay. This is cooking down nicely. The mushrooms have reduced by about half. I do intend to eventually cook a lot more different kinds of soups. Soups are probably one of my favorite things to cook. You get a nice big pot. I find soups comforting year-round. And let's face it, soups are just good. You know, whether you're talking about chicken noodle or a bowl of clam chowder, if you're looking at a Italian wedding soup or a bowl of minestrone, soups are just good food. A lot of places around the world, they eat soup with every meal. I do not have the recipe up yet. I promise I will put it up after stream. What I am going to do now is I am going to put... Yes, I'm wearing my reindeer sweater again because I'm cold and feeling under the weather. Apparently, when your body is lacking in iron and red blood cells, I screwed it up good, people. I really did. Never do it halfway. No, no, no. Always go full bore, all the way out. If you're gonna screw your body up, do it all the way. Do a proper job. Make it so all the doctors shake their heads and look at your husband as if to say, why didn't you make her come in? And then he can just be mad at you. Apparently, if you are lacking in hemoglobin and in iron, you tend to feel cold and very tired and weak a lot of the time. And that's been me. I thought I was just kind of a seasonal thing. This is two 32-ounce containers that I have managed to find a brand that doesn't put garlic in it, so I'm happy about that. It's been years since I've been able to not make my own chicken broth from scratch. I am feeling better. I am. I am going to put this on the cooktop now and bring that up to a boil, because the last thing I'm going to be adding to it, I'm going to turn the heat up a little bit for that, so it's more of a high, medium high at this point, and put the lid on it so it will come to a simmer. The last thing I'm going to be adding to this, aside from the salt when I taste it, is wide egg noodles to make it the chicken noodle soup. And for me, and apparently the more expensive canned soup varieties and Panera Breads, their chicken noodle soup always uses wide egg noodles. And if you're doing this so that it is gluten-free, you can get gluten-free noodles. If you are doing it so it's more of a keto thing, they do have noodles out there that are made of chickpeas. So it's made of chickpea flour, so that's a protein kind of powder. It is not completely free of carbs, but it is a lot better than it is just an egg noodle is. They also make vegetable egg noodles with spinach in them, and they make egg noodles out of lentils now. I'm seeing that they're doing lentils instead of chickpeas as well. So that's kind of interesting. I haven't tried the lentil stuff yet. The chickpea flour, in my opinion, when I tried it, it's a little bit tougher than a flour noodle. But I mean, it's a noodle. It's not going to be hard and crunchy. It's just a little tougher than what you would have if you just boiled it. Most brands do put garlic in their broth. If you read the labels, garlic is there in most of Campbell's things. And I mean, they even put garlic in the cream of mushroom soup. So, oh, you had them. They have a stronger lentil flavor than, so it's more like you're adding lentils to your food than a noodle. Yeah, lentils are just packed with protein, Badass Mama. I personally like them. I do a lentil soup that is a curried lentil soup. It's got lentil and onions. It has a little bit of jalapeno in it, but not a lot because it needs a little bit of heat. And I cook it in vegetable broth until the lentils are done, and then I put in a lot of fresh spinach, and I put in coconut milk to it. It's kind of a modification of an Indian recipe that I picked up from some very lovely Indian women that I worked with in engineering. I also do a lentil and turkey sausage soup, which is really, really tasty too. It's got carrots in it to make it a little sweet, and it's got onions in it, and I add celery in it as well, because why not? And then it's got lentils in it, and it's got spinach in it, and it's got some really nice turkey sausage, and that's cooked in a vegetable broth as well, and it's just a lovely, yummy soup. When this comes to a simmer, I will be adding the egg noodles in here. Now, I used to always cook the egg noodles outside of the pot, because when you cook the noodles in the broth, they do shed starch, into it. So it actually thickens the soup a little bit, and I used to want my broth like water basically. So I had a texture of what I wanted and what I had in mind, and that was the way I always wanted it. So be aware, if you want to, you can slightly undercook your egg noodles in a pot of water, rinse them, and then throw them into your pot of soup, and then you won't have any of the noodle starch getting in there. So that is something that can be done as well. I am going to take the lid off so I make sure it stops cooking, and I am going to taste some of the broth here. And as you can see here, it's got lots of nice herbs in the broth. That's got the parsley and the sage in it. And it's made with chicken broth, so of course it tastes like chicken, but it also has the deeper taste of the cooked chicken thigh in it, and it's got some of the fat from that as well. I am going to add a little bit of salt to this, and that is going to be about 1/4 teaspoon in this case, because I do an extremely restricted sodium diet for my mother, and normally I would say put up to 1 teaspoon in this, and that would be what I usually would do, but my tastes in the sodium have also declined as I'm used to it being lower in sodium. So we need to let that come to a boil, or if you just put these in there and try to get it to come to a boil, what will happen is you'll end up turning the hot liquid will be in there, and it is hot, it's warm to hot, and what it will do is just soften the noodle and just kind of make it mush without actually cooking it as you would want the noodle cooked. So it has like a little skin on the outside of it that keeps all the noodly goodness and softness inside. So it does just terrible things to the texture, and we don't want that. So thank you. It took a little while to work out how to do that, and it took an arm for my camera that is a straight riser with an arm that actually is capable of bending multiple directions, and my camera is mounted on that, and I got that from my brother for Christmas. Mentioning improve my stream, that was a huge improvement for my stream. We were using my husband's boom microphone arm before that, and it would often take a sudden dive in the middle of stream, and that was not ideal. We have a cooking equipment upgrade goal, and it's a rather modest little goal, and if you would like to help me improve my stream by giving me a donation, I would certainly appreciate it, and so would Andrew. But it's definitely not necessary. We have a workable setup, but I would like to get a second camera so you can see my prep area. So I can have a camera on the cooking area and have a prep area and have them actually have a more idealized focus on them. And if I ever start doing some of my other ideas for stream, if I start doing art streams where I'm doing painting or drawing or sculpting, or if I decide to start making jewelry on stream sometimes, it would be nice to be able to have another arm for another camera that's capable of really good close-ups, because with this camera what you would see would be, and here you can see I'm making the knots, and now I am setting the stone, and what you'll see is my hands and the pliers, and not much else. So that is something I'm looking to. And just because I have all these interests, and I think a lot of other people would be interested in seeing some of my other hobbies as well. Beyond just cooking. They would never replace my cooking streams. These would be extra things. But getting another camera and some other equipment for the stream would really be wonderful. We'll get there eventually. But any donations that you give us, your money for the money from your subs, that goes to improving my stream equipment. And everything from buying the table that we're sitting on here to getting extra cutting boards and cameras. And we just want to keep making the stream better and better. Oh, have you seen some of the picture stuff? Yeah, I do. I make the jewelry that I have made that Curie and Kitten have, that are the little, and I think Badass Mommy, you have one too, that's that little glass snowflake pendant. That's a just kind of that's costume jewelry work. I also do fine jewelry because I'm both a gold and silversmith, and I can assemble jewelry. Do you? I love that necklace too. I really do. I'm glad it's something that you enjoy. I've made my cousin's wedding jewelry where it was a 3-strand pearl necklace with gold stations on it that had sapphires and blue sapphires and white sapphires on it. It had a little pendant drop. It had earrings that matched. It's really a beautiful set. And
for stream upgrades, heart.
Oh, thank you so much for the donation. Thank you so much, Curie. I really appreciate that. I am going to let me see. We have a visitor coming in from, at this point, I think that is the west. She comes by every once in a while and always brings her happiness with her. Yes, that's right. It is Pink Pig. Yay! It's Pink Pig. She says thank you. Thank you, Curie. Thank you. And as you see, she is the most feminine kind of pig, with her little pink tutu she has and her little pink bow above her little ear and that happy, happy smile. How could you possibly go a day without seeing that little happy smile? Pink Pig! Yay! Pink Pig thanks you. Hydrate. Yes, thank you very much. I am planning on getting, actually, Kitten is working on some Pink Pig artwork that I can add to my merchandising. I'm hoping to have the link up on my channel page by this coming weekend. We were having authentication issues with...
My cooking is successfully done.
We were having authentication issues with Stream Elements, and it was not linking, authenticating with Stretch 2. Okay. Ooh, stretches feel good. Andrew has completed his cooking for the evening. Oh, thank you so much for the gifted sub.
Tier 1 sub to Badass Mama.
That's so generous of you.
1767. This is their first gift sub in the channel.
Thank you so much, Curie. I appreciate that so much. That's a wonderful thing to have done for someone else in my channel. Now, Andrew has finished his cooking for the evening. He just finished a pot of 45 cup coffee urn has just finished brewing. So I am now going to try to guilt him into giving me a cup of coffee for my sore throat. Well, then the soup is mine. Starve. Two can play that game. Meanwhile, I have my beautiful new pink mug here, and it's just waiting for the coffee. It's waiting for the coffee. Coffee, 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 coffee. Coffee, 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 coffee. I'll put that to the side there. Basically, I had a lovely question from... He can't see me from here, so he can't see the big sad brown eyes looking at him. And the little lower lip pushed out saying, I need coffee too. Coffee will help me get iron back in my blood. It will help strengthen me because Andrew is the strongest person in this whole house, and I know how much coffee he drinks, and it must be coffee that does it. Yeah, I know Meg did it better. His corgi puppy. Oh my lord, she did it so good. She used to turn her little nose down and her eyes up, and she just could look so sad. And I do take iron pills. I stopped taking them while I was feeling sick, and that was the complete and utter wrong thing to do. But I'm back taking them again. Well, there's two different kinds of iron pills. There's ferrous sulfate and there's ferrous fumarate. I can't take the sulfate version. No, you are not going to smash my new mug with a hammer. Just take it away with you and put coffee in it. Thank you. You see what he did? He was threatening my new pink mug. Hey Connor, how are you doing there? Nice to see you in. We are making a pot of chicken noodle soup because so many people are feeling under the weather and just craving it. And I am going to call upon Andrew to start throwing out some shout outs for the Only Deaf Guy and Curie and for Kitten. All of them need shout outs.
I can make coffee or I can do things. Which one do you want?
I want the coffee first. Now chop chop on the shout outs.
Curie
thank you so
_Offcity
much for
gifted
the
a tier 1
gifted
sub to the Only Deaf Guy. They have given 2 gift subs in the channel.
Wow, do we need to get that, stop doing that. Oh, is there anything better than the taste of fresh coffee? Well, actually, yes, there is. The smell of a freshly opened can of coffee. Okay. I am just checking to see if it has come to a boil yet. It's getting there. I'm getting a little bit of foam on the top. Yeah, I think my husband would rather die than give up his coffee. It does seem to be completely necessary for him. Now, this is a 12-ounce container of noodles right here. And I will warn you, they look so small and inoffensive, and you put them into your soup, you put in half of the container, the 6 ounces of it, and you look at it and you say, oh no, that's not enough noodles. I need to have more noodles than that in my chicken noodle soup. And I have made the mistake of putting up to 16 ounces of noodles, rotini noodles actually, into, yes, this has reached a boil. I am going to add that 6 ounces of noodles to it. I added 16 ounces of noodles once when I was making soup with my cousin Tara, and as it has forever been called since then, it was noodle soup with chicken. Because they really multiply. See, right here, I'm fighting that impulse again. Surely 6 ounces of noodles is not enough to be chicken noodle soup. And I'm going to assuage that by adding in an extra handful, and that's it. And it's very hard for me to do that. As these noodles cook, they will swell, they will multiply, they will create a kind of black magic that will completely fill your pot, suck up every ounce of liquid, and you too will have noodle soup with chicken. Okay, so I have got that cooking there, and the cooking directions, I really should look at those. What does it say? It says 6 to 8 minutes at a boil, or to desired tenderness. Now, if we were going to be putting this in Pink Pig, we have got a Pink Pig. A strange visitor from the strange West. I'm on the West Coast, and I'm pretty strange. Pink Pig is coming. I hear the rustle of her approach. I see her as she skitters into view. Pink Pig! Yay! It's a Pink Pig! Twice in one show! Pink Pig! Yay! Pink Pig! As I said, Kitten is going to be making me some Pink Pig artwork. Aren't those fabulous? Pink Pig artwork is going to be added to my merchandise line, and I will be having all kinds of nifty things. Look for it on my channel page coming up on the weekend. I'm hoping the linking works by then, because it hasn't today. Should we blame you? Well, I'll tell you. There is this thing where Andrew and I were driving down the coast of California. We were driving actually to get married, and I was doing all the driving. He did not yet have a license, and this was our wedding trip. And we got up in the morning and we stopped at a coffee place, and we got a tall coffee, and it was a latte. It was a mocha. And we drank those while we were driving, and when we ran out, we stopped into the local Chevron in the area, and we got a coffee from them, a latte from their machine. It wasn't actually espresso, but it was very tasty. I always got the English toffee ones. I think he always got the mochas. And I drank one of those, and because we were driving basically all day long, every day, going from Washington to Nevada, and taking a scenic route, there was a lot of need for coffee, so I also had packed. He had some Red Bull, which I didn't like the taste of at the time, and I had some Starbucks double shot, so it was a double shot of espresso, and I had a couple of those little cans there, and I had those and had drank those down, and we were driving along and had just gotten fresh coffees from a rest stop where they had the gas station, and we came across a sign and it said Dunn Road, And then we came across another sign, and it said, Dun Road 1 mile. And then we came along to another one, and it said, Dun Road, and had the arrows off to the side. And I looked at my husband and said, da da da. And then I just started laughing like a loon. And I couldn't stop. I was totally whacked out on caffeine, and my husband reached over very slowly, and he said, I'll be taking this now, thank you. And he took my coffee away. It's probably good because I might have driven us off the road, but dun 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 is a very famous phrase in our marriage. Now, I will say at that point, he did have the opportunity to run several times, but he never did, even seeing how weird I could be. All right, this, by the way, is the edge of my boom mic. This is the screen that goes up that is supposed to make it no hissing. That was the moment you knew it would never work. No, that was the moment I knew that I didn't have to worry about him running away, because he'd already pretty much seen me at my weirdest at that point. I don't remember if I had to pull off the road for a while until I got control of the caffeine wires, but yeah, if you can find somebody who's in step with your weirdness, then you've got a good one, and chain them down and never let them go, because the chance of seeing another person like that is very, very low. Okay, it hasn't been that long, but I'm just stirring it to make sure no noodles got to the bottom, and see how everything is going. And as I said, the noodles are doing their magic and getting bigger, and it's more of a proper Puffy's a great guy. I enjoy the heck out of seeing the two of you interacting together on your blind loper runs. And long may they be something that we see. So, now you could have this as your main course. It's certainly a complete meal in a pot. You've got your meat, your vegetables, and your carbs in a very comforting vehicle. And you could also have it with a side salad, or if you want more vegetables, or you could have it with, you know, a half or a whole soup. Perhaps that chicken salad that you made with the chicken meat from your boiled carcass, if you made your broth from scratch. And sorry, I needed to itch underneath my earphone. One pot meal, yeah, that is the best kind of cooking. And I have probably got another 2 minutes before the noodles are ready to be tested. We are going to keep this as a one pot, one bowl type of meal. And I thoroughly intend to enjoy this when it is finished. And as I said, I will work my little fingers to the bone after this stream, after I have eaten my bowl of soup. And I will put up the recipe tonight along with photographs of this upcoming bowl of soup. So, and I will also mention again thank you so much, Badass Mama. I appreciate that. When I reach 200 followers, I will be having a drawing, and I will be giving away a copy, an electronic copy, of my cookbook, which has most of my recipes in it. I have thrown in a few as I've gone along here that I have created and haven't added to my recipe book yet, because I've already got 400 recipes in there. I need to stop so I can actually get the sucker printed up. And my merchandising site where you can buy Cooking with Hedgepigs mugs and glasses and water bottles and apparel and throw blankets. We'll also be selling my PDF copies and Kindle copies of my cookbook. So that will be coming out soon too. No, I haven't got a price figured out for it yet. But that is upcoming. And now I am gonna try to lasso one of these really hot noodles. And they look like they are cooked. So noodles take on a kind of glow to them. They don't have they're kind of semi-translucent, and they have a look when they're done. Now I'm gonna blow on it because I don't want to burn my face off or my fingertips when I grab the noodle. And the noodle is done. So the soup is done. They do. They have a lovely tender texture and taste to them. And I can already tell this is exactly what I was craving and what I was wanting. It is, you can taste the seasoned chicken and the herbs in the broth, and you can taste the vegetables, and then there's those lovely soft noodles, tender and tasty. And now I am going to take and dish this up. And I never have a profound amount of broth in here. I just can't seem to do it. I always fill it up. So I've got that here, and I'm going to capture a couple carrots and kind of rearrange my soup so it's as pretty as possible. So I've got I've got mushrooms up there and celery showing. I've got some of my different colored carrots. I am going to finish it with just a pretty sprinkling of parsley on the top because I think it makes it look pretty. And I will have Andrew. Black background. Perfect. You're getting very good at this, sweetheart. Here's the soup. And I've turned the heat off on this pot. I've probably got 4 quarts of chicken noodle soup here. Lovely. Take another one of that a little bit further back so you can see the whole bowl. If you can. Here is my bowl of soup back, and I'm going to get a little bit of everything in that bite. So I've got broth and vegetables and noodles. I'm going to scoop up this little bit of chicken here, add some broth to it, then bloop, I am going to show it to you all up close and personal. Isn't that a beautiful, slightly out of focus mouthful? The carrots and the celery are so tender, just at the perfect point. You can taste the sweetness of the carrots. The celery has that lovely mild celery flavor. The mushrooms have mushroominess. You can taste the chicken broth. Taste the fact that this is not a chicken breast, it's a chicken thigh because it has some nice fattiness to it. You can taste the parsley and the sage. You can taste that hint of rosemary in there. You can taste a little bit of the sweet onion, and the chicken is tender, and so are the noodles. It is really the perfect bite. Very, very hot, but the perfect bite. And slurping is the way you say, darn, but that tastes good. Now, I am hoping to be back on Saturday where I will be making, I believe I'm going to be making shrimp fettuccine Alfredo. And let me see who is on that we can raid. I see my friend, the AFK Kitchen, is on. She is a lovely person who lives near me in the Seattle area, and she does charity streams benefiting St. Jude's Children's Center and different a food kitchen nearby that she donates 50 meals to every week. Every penny that goes into her stream goes to charity, and she's a heck of a lot of fun. So let's get everybody there to raid, and thank you so much for coming, everyone. Thank you so much for the resubs and the gifted subs. Kiri, that was just amazing of you. Thank you so much. And for your donation. We appreciate that. We will see you on Saturday early evening. I'll be streaming probably about 5 o'clock my time if Stream Elements is cooperating. It's about 8 o'clock Eastern. And I hope to see you all there. Thank you all for coming.